Hey guys, so I am super excited to come to you with yet another episode of the Speakeasy podcast. I am your host, Altavis Pelzer, the voice coach, founder of the World Voice League, a virtual community of female speakers coming together to impact social change. So guys, I know you saw the title and you probably said, wait a minute. Is she talking about the morning after, like the one that you might have to go get the pill for? Or like what's really going on with today's topic? So you guys know that I'm not, this is not a political platform. We don't talk about politics at all. You guys will never see politics on my timeline, unless I'm making fun of something every once and again. But you'll never see it on the timeline. But I just felt like today's topic really hits home for the business owner, the entrepreneur, the person that's, watching everybody who's coming into the race for the presidency. And it's all wrapped up into one simply because a lot of times we can get swayed by, who's being in front of us or who's endorsing people. And we can get swayed by, somebody coming up. I know my old pastor used to say that, people put their best foot forward, and we get wined and dined by the best foot, and then that old slew foot is the one that we really got to watch out for. So we want to talk about that because it definitely happens very often in business, and it can be really dangerous for you in the long run. So I'm super excited about our guest for today. Hello, Samantha.
Hi.
So I'm excited to talk to you about this particular topic because of the mental piece of it. We know that, there's a lot when it comes to people being influential. And, right now everybody's talking about influencers and ways that you can influence people to buy your stuff or sway them one way or another. But it really has been playing really heavily on the mental aspect of people just in their everyday lives. So first and foremost, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
Hi, my name is Samantha White. I am the owner of Consult Positivity. I am the Christian mindset coach. I love helping women with depression and low self-esteem. And I am so excited to be here once again. And I'm ready. I'm just so excited. I have this mental picture of SpongeBob, like, I'm ready. I'm just excited. I love being here. We almost do this like every month. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if it was a glitch in the system, but I got my spot secured, and I'm excited to be here.
So it's interesting. We talked a little bit before we started, and let's just be honest. When somebody approaches you, 9 times out of 10, they're approaching you with their best stuff or their best pickup line. Let's we've all heard some of those not so good pickup lines, but they're coming to you with their best pickup line. How do we prepare ourselves for those who are going to be coming before us, be it in this political race, be it looking for a coach, be it looking for team members and virtual assistants? What would be the first thing that you would tell people in trying to make that connection?
So have a list of the things that you want from that person, a list of the things that they must have, like not things that you would like for them to have, but things that they must have in order to be a good candidate. And this is what I tell women when we're talking about relationships: things that they must have in order to be a good candidate for your marriage, things that they must have in order to be a good president, governor, pastor, coach, preacher, whatever you're looking for, you need a list. And when you have a list, I don't mean outward appearance. I mean what you're looking for on the inside. So my list, and my husband will tell you, honey, my list was long because I had been through several bad relationships back to back to back. And I learned, I will not lie to you, I learned something from each one. And then I was like, ooh, won't do that again. Woo, won't do that again. You will not get me with that same trick again. And so I had a list. And once we started hanging out more, we were around each other more, I was like, okay, he likes me. Now, when do I give you the list? Do I give it to you on the first date? No, because that's a little pushy. You can't just jump out with a whole list full of things that you're going to do if we're going to get married. So I waited, and maybe after like 3 months, I gave him the list, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to be smooth and nice, because you can't just be like, this is what I want. You got to kind of soften it a little bit. So I was like, hey, I've been thinking, and this is the list of the things that I would like my husband to have. Not saying that you are or will be my husband. I'm just saying that if you are interested, or if this is where you see our relationship going, these are the things that you would need in order for me to say yes. So you don't get down there on one knee and sister girl be like, oh, not you, So, so just so we're clear. And I gave it to him. I didn't ask any questions about it. I told him I didn't even want him to read it in front of me. I wanted him to just kind of mull it over. Maybe about 2 or 3 weeks later, I asked him like, hey, what did you think about the list? And then he told me. He was very upfront. He was like, I was a little insulted at first, but once I got over my feelings and actually read what you said, all of those things are things that a good man should have anyways. Right. But see, these are things that you should have. This doesn't mean these are things that you do have. So I need, you know what I mean? And not against him personally, but when you think about it, like everyone has the same basic layout for what a good man should have. But then we can successfully say every man does not have those things. So as I'm giving him the list, he looks over it, and then, we're talking about it, and he's like, there's only one thing that I don't have on there that I intend upon getting. And I was like, okay. So then we went over it together. I heard the one thing, and then I was like, well, it's still it's a priority. I can't move from that one thing. So at this time, I can successfully say we're not at the stage of marriage, which, we obviously weren't, because we'd only been together about 3 to 4 months. But it was one thing. So I knew okay, he's 98% there, so this is something I can work with. Instead of him being maybe 60% there, and it was the day before our wedding, and he didn't know anything about the list. So that would be my top thing. Even when looking for a church, I do the same thing. There's certain things that I'm looking for when it comes to getting a church. There's certain things that I'm looking for when it comes to a presidential candidate. Whoever you make that list, and then you measure the person up to that list. Be well informed, and then I would always pray about it. Prior to you investing a year into a relationship, pray God, is this the person that you would have for me to be? They got 97% things on the list. They got one more. And I'm willing to give them a year or however long you think it should take in order to get that thing on that list. But before I invest a year and a half and watch them get to 100 and then cheat on me with Becky, then I just want to know, is this the person for me? And that's what I did. Not saying it's how to get married in a year type of thing, because it's not the time, but just set realistic goals, make a list, measure the person to that list prior to giving it to them, So the reason I'm giving you the list is because I know once you actually read it, you won't be insulted, because in my brain, you've got most of the things on there. But if when we meet or when we have our first date, I'm like, whoo, then there's no point of going forward. So it's having realistic expectations, and then making sure that without emotions, you get someone who aligns themselves with your actual expectations.
It's interesting that you would say that, because you hit on so many different points. So for one, you talked about giving them the list. And I think a lot of times when we're looking for someone, we're looking and searching for someone, we don't necessarily know exactly what it is we want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been there where the list is, okay, he's 6'4" and he got light eyes and curly hair, and well, I'm 5'4", so you a whole person above me. So I mean, we have to understand that there's a lot that comes with that.
Well, in understanding that, I would say that what ends up happening is that as women, we're looking, and even men, we're looking at the outside. When the thing that's going to last the longest is the inside. So whenever you look at, oh, he has, hazel eyes. Shoot, in 30 years, he might be blind. And eyes, when your eyes may turn gray. Or he's 6'4". Who knows? He might get scoliosis and shrink down. You never know what could happen to take away those physical features that you're so attracted to. Those are the ones that you're worried about. When in actuality, it's the inside that counts. Because as things progress, you're hoping that that person will progress in the right direction, and the inside will become more and more apparent, more and more loving, more and more caring. Instead, you're like, oh, he's 6'4". I wish he was 6'7". Home dude might be 30 years old. He ain't getting no taller. So
exactly.
you care about the inside.
It's so very true. And then we have that false expectation. So that's that first piece. Then you made a very good statement of saying, not only did you have the list, but you discussed with them what was on the list. Like, you had that time where we sat down and we actually talked about what was on the list. One of the things that I found when it comes to finding a coach, when it comes to voting, is that we allow ourselves to just be influenced by what we see going through the media. What do we see on social media? What do we hear in the media? What do we hear on CNN or all these different news outlets? And we don't do the research ourselves. Like, we're not showing up at the rallies. We're not showing up, so we're not showing up and getting on the phone call with this coach before we sign up for a $5,000 program, because this guru went and endorsed them. And because the guru endorsed them, we just say, oh, well, they must be good.
Yeah, they got to be legit. When that's not true, a lot of times for endorsement, people pay to play, so somebody has a price tag of $5,000. I give them $5,000 and they endorse me for a month. I get the clients from them. They get $5,000. Everything is hunky-dory. When actuality, they have no idea if my service is great or not. They are simply posting an ad. But because they have 50 million followers, then, you're expecting a return on your investment. So what I would say is the same thing, like, be informed. I am looking to, like, just this week, I decided, like, we're going to do something different with my website. I'm going to do some improvements. Well, there's thousands, millions of people who do websites now. Now it's like everybody can do it. But I don't want everybody to do it. I want a good person to do it. So what I did is I sat down with her. I had a consultation with a lady. I gave her my list. I already had a list. I gave her my list. I asked her, like, can you handle this? Can you handle that? How long would it take? I had a list of questions. And then based on her response, and of course the price, to make sure it fits into my budget and something I can afford, that's how I would determine if she's the web designer that I would use. You know what I mean? So it fits into everything. It's not just, I don't want it to be like, oh, this is just for relationships. No, it's for everything. In my business, in my model, I put that list in place. So the minute that I start looking for a service, oh my goodness, when I picked my phone service for my business, I did the same thing. I had a whole spreadsheet, because there's so many different people who want to give you a VoIP, and they host this and they host that. But I wanted someone that could do all of the things that I needed done. So I had a list. And I talked to each one of them, a representative from each one of them. I got emails from them. I compiled it onto my list and I scored them. And some of them that were like the most expensive didn't do half of the things that I wanted to do. While others who were even the one that I currently have, which I don't get no referral from them, so we're not gonna mention them by name, but the one that I currently have, they what they did is they scored high in every single category except price, because they were pretty pricey for a monthly service. And they kept following up with me, and then finally I was like, honey, y'all just cost too much. Like, it's just, I should not have to pay this much for a phone. And she was like, you should have told me. We do discounts. Okay, well, y'all should have started with the discounts. Hello, because we could have had this whole thing a month ago. Y'all playing games now. And so because I spoke it, and the same thing goes with my husband. Because I knew that this was the one thing he was missing. And because I knew, the phone carrier, this was the one thing that didn't work on my list, then I was able to get even better than what was offered to me. But if I would have just said, oh, he's cute, we're going to get married, he may have never improved that one thing because he wouldn't have known that's something that I wanted because I didn't express it. Same thing with the phone carrier that I have. If I would have just accepted that price, girl, I would have been paying that price for the rest of my life. But instead, I spoke up about it and ended up getting it cut in half because I said something. You see, so unless you have the list, know what you want, and then express it, nobody can read your mind to know what to do in business or, what to do in your personal life and candidates and all that type of stuff. And the same thing happened with the web designer. Because I had a list, she was able to tell me that she can do all of the things and this was the price. So she was able to give me a price quicker because instead of just saying, I want a new website, I knew exactly what I wanted from her.
That speaks to, you as an individual, simply because you're not going to accept just anything. And I think, we get into that complacency where we kind of accept things because we're like, okay, well, this is what they said they offer. So I'm not going to ask for anything different. I'm not going to ask or try to see if they can, change it for me because we feel as though we're not really worth them changing it, or that there's no other opportunities out there. And that's real. If we go ahead and ask, a lot of times there will be opportunities. There will be moments where you can barter things. Do not try to barter every single thing in your business. That is the wrong mindset.
No, and I have bartered twice. And they both were fairly okay. But I have more power in money than I do in barter. So what I'll say, and I do this with everything, not saying I go around and try to get the best deals, but I want, I know what I want. So when I literally have a book full of lists, different things I want to do, different things and different ways I want them to be done. And so that's what I do, even with the guy who helped me do my whole YouTube makeover, same thing. I have a list like, hey man, this over here that you're doing, this ain't on the list. I know you think it's great, but that ain't what I asked you to do. And I don't know what you're doing. I need you to stop doing that. And then go back and fix it because I'm checking to make sure that the list is met. Don't just have the list, deliver the list, and then let them do however. No, you have to hold them accountable for meeting your requirements, and then in holding them accountable, be realistic, maybe last week he was sick, so I had to wait 5 days. That's okay because you're like 97% done. I can wait 5 more days. It's not going to kill me. But I want to make sure that, okay, in those 5 days, when you say 5 days, I mean 5 days. Not say 5 days and take 10. Because sometimes, depending on the type of person that you get, you give them a little bit and they'll take a whole lot. But that should be in your list, being trustworthy and dependable. So if they've been dependable, say I've had him for a year and he's always delivered on time. This one time he gets sick and he sends me an email at midnight and it's like he's sick and he's not going to make the deadline in 2 days, then I can have slack because you're always dependable. And I know that to be your character. Instead of you always slacking off because I didn't put dependable in my list and I get a slacker. And then we have a problem because I've already paid you for a service. So either I can go the legal route and get my money back, or we can try to fix this between, business to business.
That's the case. It goes back to, this is business. No matter what, piece of it you look at, this is still business. And so I have to, look at running it like a business. If it's not going to fit into what you have, you cannot fit a square peg into a round hole. It's not going to fit. It's not meant to go there. Attempting to force it only puts you and that person at risk.
Yes. And not just risk, but pressure. And the old
Mm-hmm.
folks used to say, pressure bust pipes, honey. When I start feeling like something ain't working, that first red flag, I'll be like, excuse me, wait. No. I don't know what you do. That's what I'm telling you. Same thing with the guy. He's doing good. He's doing good. He's doing good. And then I start watching the videos and I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, I thought it would be cool to add this effect. I ain't asked you to do that. That's great, but that ain't what I want. And I'm glad that you're experimenting, but do that on your own time and on your own dime. You cannot do that over here in my area, like my little cubicle. It can't happen over here. So it's like, just checks and balances. And then when you check things or behaviors that you don't approve of in the beginning and not let them slide, because what happens is they slide and slide and slide until the person is like, oh, this is acceptable. And then they begin, or I wouldn't even say begin, they continue it until it is a habit. And then by the time you say something 6 months later, they're like, well, you've been letting me do it. And truth be told, you have, because they started just doing it a little bit. Now, if I would have let him continue with those effects, child, my video would have been spinning in and slamming you in the face and doing all this extra kind of crazy stuff. I don't want none of that. Thank you, but no. That's not what I like to do. I like my stuff to be very simple because I want you to focus on me talking in the video, not all that he got going on, because he wants to have all this awesome stuff. Like he needs to do a film or something, but we can't do that over here. And that's the same thing. Like, check it now. Check it the first time you see it, you know? And some people say choose your battles, and, you know, that's good. But in business, if it don't line to the contract or the list that you have, checking it. Because if not, it will allow people to think that this is okay, or that you're not taking this deal seriously. And in actuality, you're very serious about it. You saw it, you thought it was a mistake, and they ran with it.
You know, it's interesting. I know a lot of people have that same scenario happen when it comes to book publishing, and you know, dealing with that author, the editor, the book, you know, the graphic designer that's doing your book cover, and you go through all of these things. And the reason why we were talking about it is because you never want to have that morning after feeling like, oh crap, what did I just do? And in business, it happens more times than it should. In life, it happens more times than it should. And, you know, in order for you to not have those moments, you got to look at some things beforehand. That's why we said, you know, making the list was very key, knowing exactly what it is that you want to have and what you don't want, as much as, you know, what you do want, but also what you don't want, what you don't want to see, what you don't want to be involved in and be attached to. And
standing on your morals and principles.
Oh, that part.
Because if your business, and most business, I would say all businesses should have a moral compass. These are your values. These are what you stand on. And then when you connect with someone, researching to make sure that they have those same values, you know. And I don't even mean from a religious standpoint, because I've dealt with plenty of people that have other religions than me. I just mean, like, we're going to be trustworthy. We're going to be dependable. We're going to be on time. If you tell me that this is when you're going to do it, I expect you to do so, or I expect some kind of email or something to tell me, like, this is why I'll be late and this is how late I'll be. So those are things that I stand on. You know, my customer service, A1, day one. I want it at the top of your list, and that's the way that I expect you to treat me, because that's what I pass down to my clients. And if I tell them that an email will be out on Monday and I'm waiting on you for your article and it's Sunday night, I'm going to end up writing an article, putting it in there with my name on it, send the email because it's Monday. And when you send me yours, I can't help you. But it has to go across the board. So that's another thing. I just thought about that when you were talking, to make sure that the business or coach or whoever, their values align with yours, or maybe align with where you're taking your company to. Because if you're starting out as an author, maybe you don't have the capability to have all of these things, but this is what I would like for it to look like. And matter of fact, we talked about that before we got here on this recording. We were saying about business coaches, and this is just an example, but it could be any coach. Say A lot of people are always talking about like making your business be 6 figures. Not saying people can't do it, but I need to see that you actually make 6 figures. And the example that I gave you before is that you're waiting for me to pay you so you can get your one sale for today to put you in that 1 figure. I'm like, okay, but I make 4 sales a day, and I have maybe I'm at 5 figures. I need to go to 6, but you need me in order to get to 3. That's not going to work, because I am following your example, your course, your whatever, in order to get to 6, and you've never been there. So making sure that they have not just reviews, testimonials, they have things that you can see that proves that they have attained what they are portraying that you will get from them.
You know, that was an interesting thing for me as a coach, because I was always like, I was never that person to like put out reviews. I was never that person to say, oh my goodness, look at what I just did. But the coach that I have, which is another thing that you have to pay attention to, is whoever you're connecting yourself to, they should have somebody they're connecting themselves to. They should still be learning and growing and following someone else's lead as well. So, you know, literally going back and him just saying, okay, you do realize that people just drove like hundreds of miles to get to your event, right? Like they didn't fly, they drove from other states to come to your event. And I was just sitting there going, but I mean, yeah, no, you know, you kind of like shrug it off. But the reality is that, yeah, you have to look at who they have coming to, you know, support them, who they have, you know, saying that they've done a good job. Now, you're not going to hear all of the stories, because I know that me as a coach, I get stuff behind the scenes that, you know, people will send me a messenger or in an email, but you can also see by what they have on their timeline. There's going to be people that'll tag them and say thank you, and tag them and talk about a course, or, you know, for all these different things. And I had to be, this is the thing, I had to be very transparent with my coach, because I said, I know that there are people out there, there are coaches out there that have fake reviews on their websites and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the things that always deterred me from sharing reviews. I was like, I never want people to think that I'm sharing a fake review, or, you know, if it's somebody that's no longer in my program, sharing their review. Like it was just it was a mental thing. But yeah, you can do the research. You can ask them for referrals. Guess what? If somebody doesn't want to give you referrals, then are they really worth your money? Are they worth your time?
And references.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tell you, it's like getting stuck in a rabbit hole. Your foot falls in there, and then that's the same thing when I did my first website. I learned real quick. I got the lady, Black-owned businesses. I love Black-owned businesses. No shade to them. I got her. She was fabulous. She talked a good talk. When the website was done and she turned it over to me, all the things she said she was going to do, she ain't do. And then we kept going back and forth about it. Then I sent, at the time I had paid with a Chase card. I always paid all my things on my business credit card, because I guess I have to dispute you. I can. I disputed it because she wouldn't do what I had originally asked her to do. Got my money back. But what ended up happening is I wasted time and energy because I didn't look into the reviews. Now, if I had looked into the reviews, there was 2. When I went back and looked, there was 2 on there. Now, lots of them were good, okay? And those were obviously the ones that were showcased a little bit heavier, but there were 2 that said, you know, they were very particular about their site, which is what I was doing, and she didn't deliver. Now, if I had read them doggone reviews, I wouldn't have wasted all the money, time, and energy. Now, did I get my money back in the end? Yes, but we're talking about like a 7-month process. You know what I mean? Like unnecessary time. And most websites don't take 7 months to build. So it could have been done more efficiently, effectively. Shoot, I could have had probably spent less money. The person I used next, way less money, and they did everything that I asked them to do. So it's just, I'm telling those reviews, and some people are like, oh, don't listen to reviews because they may be fake. But if it's something that I'm going to spend more than $100 on, I honestly look at every single review. I will read every single one of them. And then the guy that ended up doing my website after her, he had one review that I did not like. I looked at it, I read it twice. It didn't make no sense to me. I screenshotted it and I sent it to him. And I said, before I buy, I want to know what's wrong with this. Like, why is he not happy? Why did he give you 3 stars out of 5? Like, I'm not trying to know his personal business, but I need to know why out of all the reviews you have, he rated you the lowest. What happened in that experience, you know, and how do I stop that from happening in my experience? And he was very transparent with it. Now, it could have went a completely different way, like, oh, that's none of your business, yada, 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 yada. But it is, because it's my money and I need to know. So that's why I say, like, if it's more than $100, I'm looking at reviews. Every single one of them. I want to read all of them to make sure not only are you legit, but I'm going to get my bang for my buck.
And it's your investment. You made the statement. It's my money. It's your money. It's your time. It's your energy. And it goes into relationships. It goes into business relationships. It's your time. It's your money. It's yours. And if you're making the investment, make sure that you're making an investment in the right thing.
Yep. And it's going around on social media now being common with your sense. And that is, I heard that from oh geez, I watch her all the time. I can't think of her name, but she's on Instagram. She's also on LinkedIn too, but I watch her on Instagram, and she says all these awesome things. And when I thought about that, I was like, you know, sometimes people try to make you feel bad, like you might be too pushy or you might be too assertive, especially as like an African American woman. You know, you too whatever, you know, you need to go over there and sit down and be quiet. But, you know, at the end of the day, consult positivity is solely my responsibility. You know, if a client does not get excellent service, they don't care that my website designer was on vacation. You know, they don't know nothing about the back of it. What they know is the front. And so I have to make sure that if I have to be assertive, if I have to be pushy, or whatever I have to do to get what I have to get done in order to make sure that they have the best experience, that's what I have to do. And that's the same thing, you know, as an author. You know, if you are out there advertising your book, you give a release date, and you get like 3 days away from that date and you don't have no book, we got a problem. So somebody's head is going to be on the line, and most likely it's the person that's been putting themselves out front. It's the face of that project, you know, and nobody cares that all this back there, you know, you the face, but the arms, legs, and the toes ain't acting right. Let's go to a chiropractor and work out them kinks, because my face is not going to suffer, you know, my image, my whatever, your whatever isn't going to suffer because somebody, the elbow, didn't want to do their job. They wanted to go out today. So it's just really making sure, I mean, and that all goes back to the values and the standards in your list and making sure that they follow through, you know, setting realistic goals and deadlines for the projects, making sure, you know, when someone don't meet that first deadline, we got a problem. We're going to check that at the door, because I don't want to get to deadline number 5 and I'm still waiting on stuff from number 1. You know what I mean? Like, just checking as we go along. And a lot of times we get these big, grand people that say they're going to do all of these things. And as new entrepreneurs, new coaches, new authors, we just kind of let them do what they're doing, and we're not checking on them every step of the way, you know, because we don't want to be that girl, you know what I mean? Or that business owner, that coach, that author. And there was something that I heard one time where it was saying that Beyonce was like super crazy about how she wants her dressing room, how her area is, or whatever. And I was reading the article, and I will give a little disclaimer. I'm not in the beehive. That ain't how I get down. But I saw this and I was like, is she really like that? Because she just doesn't seem to be like super all about how her dressing room is. But what she said, in response to this article, which I thought was so key. She was like, you think about how long I've been on the road, how long I've been in the plane, how long I've been wherever. When I come to my dressing room, you know, this is my place of peace. And when I get there, because you're paying me to do a service and I've already sent you, you know, the contractual obligations that come with my dressing room. And then I get there and you half do it and you just expect me to take, I'm Beyonce. But she was like, what? No, I gave you the contract and your representative signed it. So then you cannot then get upset with me because of how I react in the situation where you are not following through with the contract that you signed. Come on. So people were making her out to be like this crazy person yelling at the lawyer about the contract when it's like, no, sir, you signed it 6 months ago. You knew how I wanted the dressing room to be. If you had a problem, you should have said it then. I am here now, and I expect everything on that contract to be fulfilled. It's the same way for you. You are fabulous. You are insert your name here, and you are here to do whatever you're supposed to do. You know, whatever your mission is in life. And what happens is when you give people those expectations, some people just won't meet them. And at that time, you just have to cut the cord. But remember Beyonce, because that has always stuck in my head. Like, I am Beyonce. I gave you a contract. You signed that contract. You negated to follow through with it. And you still wanted me to do the show? No, sir. Not until you fix these problems. And then I will get on the stage. So what they end up doing is just having like someone come in and sing for a couple of hours while they got the dressing room together. But it's like she needs that space, you know, of peace, which is something that they agreed to do.
You hit the nail on the head with that one. I won't go into detail, but you hit the nail on the head with that one. Woo! When it comes to, you know, that whole author process and publishing a book and, man, editing and making sure things are on point, being the face of the brand, when there's a problem, people come to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to the people on your team. They're not going to the people behind the scenes. So I definitely agree with you there. And it's a really painful spot to be in because, again, when you're trying to put out something at a certain level, that's something at a certain quality.
Definitely.
Then when things start to not level, you know, rise up to that level of quality that you're putting out, it makes you look bad. It makes your business look bad. It makes, you know, they're not, honestly, they're looking at you and saying, okay, are you really a flake? Like, are you really, you know, saying you can do what you put on paper? It's a lot that goes into it. And so, man, I believe me, I've been there. And it's having those difficult conversations sometimes. It's asking the difficult questions. It's going back and saying, okay, this is not right. And it doesn't feel good, but again, you have to say, this is my business. If this was just a hobby, then okay, a hobby, you do whatever you want to do. But this is how I'm bringing in, you know, revenue for my family. This is how I'm taking care of myself and my home. I can't just let anything pass.
I'm not half stepping you, so why you half stepping me?
Exactly.
Because they still expected her to perform all the songs she was supposed to perform. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't. And I don't even remember what it was that made her dressing room off. But it's like, if you allow, especially in a contract, if you allow people not to do A and B, well, next time you come, they're not going to do C through Z. Like, they're just going to throw you in a little shack in the back.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what she kept saying. I am Beyonce. I gave you a contract 6 months ago. And she was just going off on them. And I was listening, and she didn't say anything that was disrespectful. But she kept telling them, like, hello.
Like, you had the details of this and enough time to work it out.
Yes. And she was saying 6 months. And then you think about a dressing room. I mean, there can't be too many things in there that would take you more than 6 months to put in there. I mean, she need a chair, she need a mirror. These are things that, like,
right. In our mind, we're like, I mean, even if she needed a diffuser and some essential oils, like, bruh, like, it doesn't.
You could get that from Walmart.
You get that from Walmart. You could have ordered that from Amazon, like, for real.
It wouldn't have taken you 6 months. So I was just like, she could have wanted a whole bed full of roses. You could buy it at the floor. So it was just like, come on now. And that's the same way I started thinking in my business. Like, unless I say, like, this is what I need in order to do what I do, then people will give you whatever, however, because it's cheaper for them.
Exactly.
Right? So just sticking up for yourself. And I think that greatly ties into everything that we're talking about. You know, have your own mind, make a list, explain those expectations, you know, have them in contractual form, some kind of way, or either via email. Because what happens, the one I was telling you about, I had to get a refund for, Chase wanted to see the email saying that this is what I wanted my site to be like, and it wasn't that. And that's why I got my money back. You know, so if I would have just been like, she didn't deliver, and then she shows, you know, the site up, then they're like, well, what didn't she deliver? This is a website. It was like, no, but I wanted this, this, and this. Well, did you tell her that? Mm-hmm. Well, no, but I told her over the phone. I have no proof of that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying about having the list and then showing proof that you gave it to him. Same thing, like with my husband, I gave him the list. And then we had a conversation talking about it. So it's making sure that you have those expectations out front, have proof of them. And then in business, you'll see that you can get further with those good connections, you know, because you're making sure that you're getting good connections, good vibes, and then you're getting projects done more effectively. Not saying it won't cause a little pressure, this and that, you know, every time you are dealing with someone outside of yourself, and shoot, even sometimes with ourselves, if we be completely honest, there's going to be friction. But what happens is, you know, you both know the end goal and, you know, you get there. Exactly. And it takes discussion and stuff like that. And not everything is pieces of pie, but having them up front lets everybody know what they're working with. So whenever you say, hey, this wasn't on the website, they can't be like, oh, what are you talking about? No, because, okay, look at section A, you know, space 1, this. I don't see it. And then they can show you where it is if it's there. You know what I mean? So just being clear across the board. Because if you think about it, like, Google doesn't do any deals with people that they haven't previously discussed. They don't just walk up and give people millions of dollars. Sure. When they hire a developer, or even when you get hired at your job, say you get a job, they give you like your list of different chores you'll do or whatever, what your qualifications are. When you apply for a job, most of the time they tell you what qualifications you have to have. That's their list. Then they tell you your job duties. These are their expectations. You see what I mean? Like, they already told you what they're looking for, and then they're telling you when you get this job, if you get this position, this is what we expect. So they're giving you the list of things they want and the list of things that you will attain or you will do as you continue to work there. It's the same way in your business. Just be bold enough to do it for yourself because you accept it coming from someone else. So you have to be bold enough to give it back out.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this topic. Simply because, like I said, it hits in so many different arenas. It hits in the political arena. It hits in the coaching field. It hits it as a speaker, as an author. Like, this is literally something that goes across the board. It's not just, you know, relationships, everything, literally. And if you don't have that support, if you don't have that conversation, you can set yourself up for failure so much. So let them know how they can get in contact with you and where to find you at on social media.
Okay, so all of my stuff, all my good stuff is on consultpositivity.com. For social media, it's all under Consult Positivity except for Twitter because she wants to be bougie and tell me that positivity is too many words. So I have Consult Positive. I mean, it really gets on my nerves, y'all. I like simplicity, and Twitter don't want to be simple. So Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. I knew there was another one. All of them are Consult Positivity. And then, like I said, Twitter is Consult Positive. And come join us. I just made a Facebook group. It's called Overcoming Mental Health, where we will actually like dive into different areas of mental health, you know, because that's what I do. And you're more than welcome to come and join us, you know, and just hang out with us, see what we got going on. It's really cool. As always, I am honored to be here with you. I love this show so much. We always talk about great things. And I hope that you'll connect with me and, come hang out with me on my side of the world. And
Of course.
I'll be back.
And you know what? It's so interesting. Like when you get good guests and the conversation just flows. Like I get people that are like, oh, I'll send you a list of questions that you can ask me. And I'm like, I don't want your list because I just want to talk. I want to talk. I want to have a real conversation about, like, I don't want anything robotic. I want a real conversation about what's going on in this here world and your journey. And when we do it that way, we're able to get real deep down in and say, okay, look, because I know somebody's going to listen to this episode and says she gave him a list.
Yeah, because I've never told anybody that before.
Let me go get my pens and papers and go and start writing down that it got to be this and let's
but
see
I think
what
that
the card
that's something
like.
cool about having a good host too, because it's like you come out with things that as a speaker, and I talk all the time. I speak at an event every single week and I'm always talking about myself. I'm always giving information about myself, but it's cool to see like different parts where you're like, I don't think I've ever told anybody that before. But as you go along, it's like that was something maybe somebody needs going forward. So it's really cool. And that's why I like just having like the conversation, because I've been on the other side of those. These are the questions I'm going to ask. And then it's just like, you already sent me the questions. And then when I get up here, you ask me the questions. And these are the same questions that everybody else asks on every other podcast.
Exactly.
And so then it's just like, I'm constantly giving the same story and it just makes it very chopped. Whereas if you have a conversation, then you can get things from the host and from the guest that you would never know otherwise. No one's gonna say, "Do you like making lists?" And then I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I gave my husband a list." But in a regular conversation, that might come up. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm obsessive and everything has a list, but it's like big things do. So it's really cool to be on the other side and have a conversation as well. It makes it way more authentic.
I love every bit of it. And, I've only had maybe like 2 guests out of maybe coming up on 200, if we haven't already hit 200, who were just like, it was like trying to pull teeth to get them to talk. But most people, once you get into the flow, it's like, oh yeah, and something else will pop in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, and this part, and let me tell you about this, and oh yeah, and that part. And then when you look up, you're like, oh, it's done? Tag.
Yeah, it's over.
Guys, you know that I love bringing you, like, let's be honest. We've had 6 and 7 figure earners on this podcast. We've had people who are in the beginning stages of being an author and speaker. We've had people who have their own companies, people who are starting their companies. And I always love the varying stages, but oh my goodness, we talk about some of the core things to being a success. And a lot of times you're thinking it's the glitz and the glam, and it's not. It's, service, it's relationships, it's conversations, it's loving what you do and doing what you love. And so I always love being able to come back to that as the foundation, because that's what makes this go. This is why you guys tune in. Mm-hmm. That part. It's why you tune in. So with that being said, if you are a speaker or an author, I would love to have you on as a guest. If you go to bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast, all lowercase, you can pick a date that works for you. We would love to have you on as a guest so we can talk about your journey, the successful or unsuccessful things that you have done for you to be that paid speaker or author. With that being said, I appreciate you guys, because without the Speakeasy Podcast listeners, there would be no Speakeasy Podcast. I am your host, Altavis Pelzer, and until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.